You followed the rules, got the job, paid the bills, smiled when expected. From the outside, your life looks fine, maybe even impressive. But inside, something's wrong. You're tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. You feel a low-grade ache, like you've lost something you can't name. And here's the brutal truth. You're not alone. Most people you meet are half awake, performing a life that doesn't feel like theirs. Carl Jung saw this before the internet, before burnout became a badge of honor. He warned that modern life, so obsessed with performance, pleasure, and control, would eventually empty the soul. And that's exactly what's happening. Success no longer satisfies. Relationships feel shallow. And the more you achieve, the more anxious you become. Because none of it touches the part of you that's been neglected, the inner world. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the world trained you to ignore the very part of yourself that could make you whole? In this video, you'll discover what Jung called individuation, the path to becoming your true self by integrating what you've repressed, forgotten, or feared. You'll learn why most people never get there, and how you can. You don't need to escape your life. You need to reclaim it from the inside. If you've ever felt like you're living someone else's story, this might be the moment you finally return to your own. It starts innocently. A stable job, a decent paycheck, maybe even praise from your boss. You post a photo, get likes, people say you're doing well. But then comes the silence. The nights where you lie in bed and ask, why does this still feel empty? Carl Jung saw this coming long before Instagram. He called it the illusion of progress, when society convinces you that external success is the same as inner fulfillment. But it's not. The more you chase validation, the more distant your true self becomes. And the scariest part? You don't even realize you're disappearing. You wake up one day, and you're a stranger to your own life. Modern suffering wears a suit and pays taxes. It doesn't scream. It whispers. Just one more goal. Just work a bit harder. You'll feel better after that promotion. And so you comply. But Jung warned, the first half of life, where we're pushed to build careers, families, and reputations, is only half the journey. If we stop there, we become what he called half alive. You see it in the exhausted mother smiling through burnout, in the man who provides for his family but hasn't felt alive in years, in the crowd of people who seem so connected, yet feel utterly alone. Because no title, no paycheck, no applause can replace the absence of the soul. We live in a society that teaches you how to perform, not how to feel, how to impress, not how to understand yourself. You're taught how to be productive, but never how to be whole. Jung believed this was a psychological tragedy. When you disconnect from your unconscious, your feelings, instincts, dreams, you lose access to the only compass that can lead you home. That's why so many people experience a midlife crisis, not because they failed, but because success didn't deliver what was promised. They did everything right, and still feel wrong. That quiet panic? That's your true self calling out from under the surface. Jung didn't offer shallow solutions. He asked you to stop running and listen, to stop numbing the ache with distractions and achievements, and start asking real questions. What part of me have I abandoned to be accepted? What dream did I kill just to fit in? For the working class, people juggling bills, family, survival, this message is radical. Because it doesn't promise comfort, it promises depth. And for those exhausted by false promises, that's more than enough. Jung believed the soul doesn't need luxury to awaken. It needs honesty. Even 5 minutes of silence before a shift can change something. Even a journal under flickering light can resurrect a voice buried for decades. Let's be real. Looking inward can be terrifying, because you'll find things you've tried to forget. Regret, shame, longings that never went away. But what if that's where the healing begins? Jung described individuation as the process of becoming who you truly are, not who the world trained you to be. And that starts by turning away from the crowd. Not physically, but mentally. Stop measuring your worth by metrics that don't know your name. Stop chasing paths that others carved just to keep you from carving your own. Because the longer you ignore your inner voice, the louder your outer life has to be just to keep you from hearing it. You don't have to abandon your job or disappear into the woods, but you do have to start choosing differently. Choosing presence over productivity, silence over endless stimulation, depth over dopamine. That's what individuation looks like in real life. Not some abstract spiritual concept, but a daily rebellion against numbness. For the mother folding laundry while feeling invisible. For the man working 2 jobs wondering if it's all for nothing. This is your invitation, not to escape life, but to meet yourself inside it. Jung believed that the greatest tragedy isn't death. It's never having lived as who you really are. And here's the twist. When you stop chasing who you're supposed to be, the anxiety lessens. The world doesn't feel as heavy. You begin to feel a strange sense of peace. Not because life is easier, but because you're not fighting yourself anymore. Your smile isn't forced. Your choices make sense. You no longer need to explain who you are. You just are. This is the foundation of real self-healing. So tell me, have you ever done everything right and still felt like something was missing? If so, share that moment below. Someone else might be silently living the same question. There's a place inside you that no one sees, not even you. It's where the fear lives. The old rage you pretend isn't there. The dreams you buried to be realistic. Carl Jung called this the unconscious mind, not some abstract concept, but a living realm inside each person, shaping choices without their permission. And here's the truth. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding it. They keep busy, distracted, entertained, because if they stop, even for a second, the silence starts to speak, and what it says terrifies them. But this world within, the one you've been taught to ignore, might be the only place where real healing begins. You see it in the little things. The way someone explodes over a tiny mistake. The way a person shuts down during intimacy. The way someone works non-stop, but feels hollow inside. These aren't personality traits. They're symptoms of something deeper. A part of you you've exiled. Jung called this your shadow, the collection of everything you were told not to be. Anger, desire, selfishness, even confidence. As a child, if those traits got you punished, you learned to lock them away. But here's the twist. What you hide doesn't die. It waits. And if ignored long enough, it takes control in ways you can't recognize until it's too late. Shadow work isn't about becoming darker. It's about becoming honest. It's the courage to look at what you're ashamed of and realize it's human. It's the moment you stop trying to be good and start trying to be real. Jung didn't believe the shadow was evil. He believed it was necessary. Because inside that darkness is your power, your truth, your individuality. When you integrate the shadow, you stop apologizing for your instincts. You stop over-explaining your boundaries. You become less reactive, more rooted. The very parts you feared become the foundation of your integrity. But to get there, you must stop running from yourself. And just beyond the shadow, there's something even more mysterious. A figure that guides your desires, colors your fantasies, and shapes how you love. For men, Jung called it the anima, the inner feminine. For women, the animus, the inner masculine. These are more than concepts. They're psychological forces. When ignored, they lead to confusion in relationships, projection onto partners, or feelings of emptiness no matter who you're with. But when acknowledged and brought into conscious awareness, they become bridges. They reconnect you to forgotten feelings, unexplored talents, and deeper meaning. The integration of the soul image isn't a luxury. It's survival for a soul-starved life. Jung found that people who reconnected with their anima or animus became more creative, more expressive, more whole. not perfect, whole. A man who represses his anima may become emotionally numb or overly rigid. A woman who rejects her animus may feel powerless or trapped in fantasy. But when these forces are accepted, they awaken what Jung called the self, the unshakable core that contains both light and dark, strength and softness, clarity and depth. This isn't theory. It shows up in daily life, in how you respond to stress, in how you dream, in whether your decisions reflect your truth or someone else's programming. For people working long hours, living paycheck to paycheck, this might seem like abstract philosophy. But it's not. Think of the man who drinks every night not because he likes alcohol, but because silence scares him. Or the woman who stays in a toxic relationship because being alone means facing the emptiness inside. These are spiritual wounds disguised as routines, and they won't be healed by hustle, or pills, or one more self-help book. They need attention. Gentle, honest attention. Jung's teachings weren't reserved for academics. They were a lifeline for anyone who has ever felt like they were falling apart in silence. Doing this inner work doesn't require a retreat in the mountains. It starts in small, everyday choices. Writing down a dream instead of ignoring it. Sitting with a painful memory instead of numbing it. Asking yourself not what the world wants from you, but what your soul is trying to say. This is the forgotten world within, and it's not empty. It's rich with symbols, stories, fragments of who you were meant to become. The world outside keeps telling you to move faster, do more, achieve louder. But maybe the real question is, when was the last time you were quiet enough to hear yourself? We'll never outrun our unconscious. We can only choose whether we meet it with fear or with reverence. Jung believed that the soul will do whatever it takes to get our attention, through crisis, through patterns, through restlessness that won't let us sleep. Maybe that's what brought you here. Maybe something in you is tired of pretending, tired of performing. And if that's true, don't turn away. This isn't weakness. It's the beginning of self-respect. So what part of yourself have you been avoiding the most? And what do you think it's trying to tell you? There's a truth most people sense but are too afraid to say aloud. Life feels too loud, too fast, too hollow. Carl Jung didn't try to fix this with empty optimism. He pointed to a deeper path, individuation. Not a buzzword, but a psychological and spiritual process of becoming who you actually are. In a world that teaches you to fragment yourself, to be one person at work, another at home, and someone else online, individuation is the quiet act of reintegration. It's remembering the child you silenced, the instincts you buried, the truths you watered down to survive. It's not self-improvement, it's self-reclamation. You can't fake your way through this process. Individuation demands honesty. It asks, when did you stop choosing your life and start just reacting to it? When did you start measuring success by how exhausted you are? Jung believed that your soul never forgets who you are. It just waits. It waits through the years you ignore your dreams. It waits through the jobs that deaden you. It waits in the symptoms: anxiety, burnout, that quiet dread on Sunday nights. These are not defects. They are signals. Your soul speaking through your nervous system. And the only cure is to finally listen. Jung didn't believe the cure was out there. He believed the cure was within, and that it grows through contact with reality. That's why he chopped wood, lit fires by hand, drew water from a well, not as a performance, but as a ritual. Simple acts root us. They remind the body that it exists, the mind that it belongs somewhere. For people drowning in digital noise and fractured attention, simplicity is not weakness, it's medicine. Even washing dishes, if done with awareness, can become an anchor. Even making your bed can become a prayer. The outer act, done consciously, restores inner clarity. Individuation isn't glamorous. It's not a breakthrough moment posted online. It's subtle. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your limits and honoring them. It's the refusal to betray yourself just to please someone else. It's sitting with discomfort instead of covering it up. Jung wrote that the greatest burden a child can carry is the unlived life of the parent, and many adults today are still carrying that weight, living for expectations, not truth. But individuation breaks the cycle. It says, your path matters. Your truth is valid. You were not born to perform. You were born to unfold. And unfolding takes time. It can't be rushed. It doesn't look like linear success. Some days it looks like crying in the car. Some days it looks like saying no for the first time. Some days it looks like quitting something that once defined you. And that's okay. The point is not to become someone new. It's to remember who you've always been. When you stop trying to fix yourself and start trying to understand yourself, healing begins. Not all at once, but gently, like light returning to a room you forgot existed. It's not about perfection. It's about presence, depth, integrity. But the modern world resists this. It rewards speed over stillness, image over essence. That's why individuation is radical. It's choosing to live by your inner clock instead of the world's stopwatch. It's redefining success, not as accumulation, but as alignment. It's no longer asking, am I winning? But instead, am I aligned with who I really am? The beauty is that no one can answer that but you. Jung believed that if the path ahead of you is clear, you're probably on someone else's path. Because your real path isn't pre-written. It's discovered in motion, in mistakes, in solitude, in truth. This is where the unconscious becomes your ally. Instead of sabotaging you, it starts guiding you. Through dreams, through gut feelings, through synchronicities. As you reconnect with the parts of you once ignored, something shifts. You feel less fragmented, less desperate for approval, more anchored in a quiet strength. You stop reacting to life and begin to respond from the core of your being. That's what individuation does. It gives you back the authority over your inner world. And in doing so, it changes how you move through the outer one. The most beautiful thing is that this path doesn't require anyone's permission. Not your boss, not your partner, not society. It starts the moment you decide to stop outsourcing your worth. So what's one simple act, today, that could help you return to yourself? What's one habit you can do, not for approval, but for truth? Share it below. You might inspire someone else to begin their way back home too. You don't need to burn everything down to feel alive again. You just need to stop abandoning yourself. The world won't teach you how to do that. It will teach you how to hide, how to numb, how to perform. But your unconscious? It never stops trying to bring you back home. Through discomfort, through dreams, through the quiet voice you keep silencing. Individuation is not a luxury for the privileged. It's a necessity for anyone who's tired of feeling like a stranger in their own skin. Carl Jung didn't promise ease, he promised depth. And in a world that rewards surface, that's revolutionary. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to look within, to reclaim the parts of you that got left behind in the rush to be accepted. So pause, just for a second. What would change if you took your inner life seriously? What if the very thing you've been avoiding, your fear, your anger, your confusion, wasn't the enemy, but the map? What if your most personal pain was actually pointing to your most personal power? If any part of this spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Comment below. What truth are you ready to stop ignoring? And if you're ready for more, subscribe and turn on notifications. This journey inward is just beginning, and you won't have to walk it alone.